Alright, so today I'm going to talk about a new quilt I have. It's a Katabatic Sawatch 15-degree down quilt. And I'm just going to hit the highlights of it. I'll leave a link to the actual product on their website so you can look up all the detailed information. Just going to hit the highlights of it, what I think of it, why I chose this quilt over all the other brands. And then if you've been following my channel, you've seen over the years I've said many times I don't use any down gear. And then at the end of the video I'll explain why I made a switch from synthetic to down. So this Katabatic quilt, it's been in the stuff sack for 2 days, which is something I never do. I never leave synthetic or anything, bags, quilts, whatever, inside of a compressed bag. And maybe at the most, if I'm doing multiple day trips, it's in the backpack during the day, but then it lofts out at night and stuff. But to leave it stuffed in a stuffed bag for 2 days is something I never do. But I figured it'd give you a better idea of how it lofts out or how quickly it lofts out since it's been compressed for so long. So I'll get that going while I talk about it. This quilt weighs 24 ounces, a hair over 24 ounces, so it's roughly about 1.5 pounds. That is one of the reasons why I switched to try it down. My comparable Moonstone Optima 3D sleeping bag weighs over 3 pounds, so about double the weight and double the space inside my pack. So I decided to give it a try. I got this last February, and I did a little video on Instagram showing the first night I tested it out on my porch. And as you can see, it's already locked it out a lot more than most quilts would be initially. So one of the things I liked about this quilt is it had the Expo Dry down feathers in there, and that's really from the research I've done over the years trying to find, because as much as I said I don't like down, I've also said I wish I could. I want to love it, but the fact that if it gets wet, it's a major issue. So I've been researching a lot over the last several years, a lot of different insulations and the coatings that they put on them and all that kind of stuff. And I decided to take a chance with this Expo Dry. And also the shell and the DWR coating they put on this is one of the most water resistant coatings out on a quilt out there. One of the other things I liked about it was something that a lot of quilts don't have, or sleeping bags or anything, is its differential cut, the inner layer and outer layer. What that means is the outer layer is bigger than, wider than the inner layer is. And most quilt manufacturers, sleeping manufacturers, or sleeping bag manufacturers do not do that. And the benefit of having a differential cut is if it is not differential cut, if the outside and inside are the same size, then if you roll over and your shoulder's pressing up against, or your knee or your hip is pressing up against that inner fabric, it can compress that insulation where the outer and inner layers are touching. And so that's really compressing the down in there. And I've watched countless videos. Every year I follow people, I pick 2 or 3 people that are doing each of the long trails, the AT, CDC, PCT, and I see that a lot in their videos. And some manufacturers do a little bit of a differential cut, but they haven't put as much research, in my opinion, haven't put as much research into it as Katabatic gear has, and they've really got that dialed down. So with a differential cut, even if you're rolling over and your shoulder's pushing up against the inner fabric, or your knee or hip or whatever, the inner fabric is smaller, so it won't go up and all the way up to the outer layer. It won't compress that insulation all the way. Makes a huge difference in the quality of warmth. And yeah, I mean, if you down, one of the beautiful things about down is it compresses really good. But that's one of the one of the bad sides to it too, because that's why a lot of people use quilts instead of sleeping bags on down, because if you're laying on a material in a sleeping bag, in a down sleeping bag, it's totally useless. So the quilt doesn't have that material that you're on the backside that you're actually laying on. So with the differential cut, that keeps that down from compressing as much when you're inside of it actually using a bag, and you're less likely to have cold spots on your shoulder, your hip, your knees, that you would in a typical bag. Another thing that they've done is, as you can see, I mean, this, as soon as I pull it out of the bag, it's really lofted up quite a bit. I got a little sagging spot right here. I could just fluff it out a little bit and it's good to go. It takes, I haven't, this is my first, I want to be totally honest with this. This is my first down anything. But just from watching videos, I've seen people with their quilts and everything that will take 10-15 minutes to loft up as much as this did already. And then they're constantly having to shake it and fluff it out and, you know, get it, well, not constantly, but initially having to shake it out and get that down fluffed up and everything. And I haven't even done that yet. Once I do that, it's really gonna puff up. But one of the issues I've seen with a lot of quilts on videos and stuff, and sleeping bags, is the insulation when you first take it out of the bag, it's all in one spot or whatever. As you can see, this bag has been compressed for 2 days and it's already puffed out quite a bit without shaking it or anything, or without having to, I've seen people having to really spread the material out and everything and get it all distributed. I didn't have to do anything with that. Like I said, right here, I could fluff it up a little bit and get this area right here puffed up. But I've seen videos, because the way, if you don't know, the chambers in these seams aren't sewn all the way through. There's actually a chamber. There's where every one of these rows of stitching is, there's a piece of material, and they do 3-inch, 4-inch chambers, whatever. And so this material, this seam doesn't actually go all the way through the inner and outer material. There's a baffle there in each one of these. Katabatic Gear has done a lot of research on sizing those baffles just right, and all that research and everything, it really shows when you do something like this. If I took almost any other brand of quilt out there and did this exact same thing and laid them out side by side, you would see there's a really big difference. And again, my first quilt, I'm only basing that on what I've seen in probably thousands of hours of watching videos. So keep that in mind. I'm trying to be honest with my review here on this. This has got 900 fill down. It's expedite coated. It's got overstuffing in the foot. And I can't remember, I'd have to look at the order form, but I think I also ordered overstuffing throughout the whole quilt. I can't remember that 100%. So the differential cut, the research they put into the baffles, I've seen, especially, you know, you hammock campers out there, the underquilts, that down really wants to settle down into the bottom and not up on the sides. But the work that they've done on getting these chambers dialed in just right, and having the right amount of feathers per chamber, it really shows through. And the quality of it. Material is nice and soft, all that kind of stuff. I like that. I'm gonna fluff this out a little bit. So one of the things I like about this that I need any of your help, anybody that can comment with a different opinion on it. So this has 2 holes in here. It's got the bigger hole there, and then you can slide it up and put it in the smaller hole. And what that does, I'll take my sleeping bag. What this does is you can clip it in here in the first hole, and if you want to allow some airflow and everything, this will kind of slide around on the bag. And then if you want to lock it in place, then you just pull it up a little higher, click it into that other click, and then it locks it in place. It will not move. So if you want a little extra ventilation, I already have that option with that. And this is one of the things I need some help with from some of the other people. On this quilt, my dog is, that noise is my German Shepherd. She just walked in the door. From what I've seen on other quilts that have a kind of strap like this that ties down to the bag, locks your bag in place, it looks like, and this is where I can absolutely be wrong, but it looks like it clips it to your bungee, but that's it. It just clips it there, and that seems like as you're moving around, you can get air underneath there. And this one, if you put it in the bigger hole, it will exactly do that. It will move around and allow a little bit of air to get in there. But when you lock this in the smaller hole, what I liked about it, and one of my biggest attractions to this bag, was that I can pull like the left side in this way and lock it in place, and I can take the right side and pull it this way and lock it in place. So now it's really tucking those sides underneath me, or right up against me. I know if it's underneath me totally, I'll be compressing insulation, but it gets right up tight against me. From everything I've seen on the other quilts that have a securement system like this, it doesn't seem like that you can like pull it towards the center and lock it in place. Maybe, you know, I've just misinterpreted the videos I've seen or whatever. Maybe that's not true, but the Katabatic gear and the videos I saw them, they showed that it does do that. And that's one of the things I've been hesitant about buying a quilt. It's like, well, yeah, I got these straps and everything, but if they allow air in there, they're not really doing much good. But Katabatic gear in their videos was really made a point to show that, you know, you can actually pull both sides in towards you and really seal in that air. And from when I tested it, this is a 15-degree rated quilt. From whenever I tested it, it got down in the mid-20s at night. I was perfectly fine. Slept like a baby. Ricken, go on. And I was able to, I bought that in February, and after that the weather started warming up, so I haven't tested it any colder than the mid-20s, but at 15 degrees, at a 15-degree rated bag, as warm as I was in the mid-20s, I have no doubt I can get down towards 15 degrees with it and still be comfortable. Another huge thing that I've done, so really quickly on the other features, drawstring around the neck, got the double snaps to really get that drawn up around your neck nice and snug so you don't get any air in there. It also has a, maybe I could be wrong. Yeah, I could be wrong. Oh, sorry. It has these other straps that it keeps it tight around the bottom of the opening and everything. And then it's got where these straps that connect to my bungees are. It's also got 2 small straps that you can connect on there if you're not using a sleeping pad. They're just straps that will connect to both ends of that to keep it underneath you and everything. So that's nice. They look similar to this, but I just didn't bring it with me. And this is what I was looking for here, the pocket. It's also got a pocket, which is nice, like maybe you got a water filter or something you want to keep from freezing, put it in a Ziploc bag, stick in there. so that's a great deal. So a lot of attention to detail and making it, all the stitching looks good, material looks great, nice and soft. It really kept that air out. I mean, when I tried it that night, I was just sleeping out on my porch, so I was totally exposed to the wind and everything, and had no issues at all about it. I think it's a great quilt. The bungees you can get with this for underneath your air mattress or around your air mattress. I just usually leave them on my air mattress, and then that way when I roll it out and I play it, they're right there, and I don't have to worry about losing them. Another thing that I've seen with this, and one of the things I tested this out with, was that I think in any temperature rated, well, let's just go with a 20-degree bag. If you're in a 20-degree bag or quilt, in my opinion, and from my experience in other bags that I've used, a 20-degree bag, especially if it's 25, 30 degrees, I should be able to sleep in there in just my underwear without having any other additional clothing. I've seen so many people with all these other quilts, paying hundreds of dollars for these quilts and everything, and time after time after time again. And if you look at like people doing the AT and all them other long hikes, you could see it on a lot of videos. They'll have a 20-degree quilt or sleeping bag, and the temperatures might be in the 40s, maybe 30s, and they're in there with their long insulated, base layer, sometimes even in a puffy, and they're cold. If you have a bag that's rated for 20 degrees and it's in the 30s and you're having to wear all that other stuff to stay warm, in my opinion, that is not a 20-degree rated bag. And I think a lot of people mess up. They'll put a bunch of clothes on when they go to bed, and then they get up in the morning, they're cold. Well, if you've been wearing your puffy and all that kind of stuff while you're sleeping, and then you take the sleeping bag off, yeah, you're gonna get cold. So what I do is I sleep with basically nothing, just underwear, and then when I'm in the sleeping bag, and then when I get out, it's cold, but I can put on my clothes. So when I tested this, just like I've tested any other sleeping bag, I try to get as close to the temperature rating as I can and see if I'm comfortable just wearing underwear. I get it with down, wearing the base layers. One of the things to that is the dirts and oils from your body getting on the down will also, it will cause the down not to fluff it up as much and not provide as much insulation, all that kind of stuff. So I see a reason why people would wear some kind of like minimal, like long underwear to kind of protect the sleeping bag, from their oils and dirts off their body. But these people are doing it to stay warm. They're, wearing socks and long underwear, pants and shirts and long sleeves and even like a puffy in a lot of situations. That if you have to do that in a 20-degree bag or any other temperature, if you have to do that in a 20-degree bag when it's in the 30s and 40s, it's not truly 20-degree rated in my opinion. Another thing I've seen with a lot of other quilts, and I tried to find a clip of this video so I could take a picture of it, but one video in particular was a perfect example of it. I've seen it in other videos too, but this guy was showing his quilt, and it was from a big brand name quilt, but his foot was kind of sitting up, and where his toes were, you could see material, inner material and outer material touching, and all the feathers were down off the side of it. And then he moved his other foot as he was talking, and then all the feathers drifted off and everything, and his foot was touching inner outer material. That's not a good sleep. It's not a good quilt. It's not a good sleeping bag. if the feathers in there are gonna move around so much that happens, and the bag had been fluffed out a lot, he'd been using it, matter of fact, he spent the night in it, and that next morning he was talking as he was filming, had nothing to do with the quilt he was using, but I seen that on the video, and that's something I did not experience at all in the 2 nights that I used this last winter. Haven't used it yet, I'm waiting on the weather to get colder. I've got warmer braided sleeping bags that I use in the warmer weather, but and being down, I don't want to put any extra wear and tear on it and all that kind of stuff. I will probably tend to beta this more than I do my synthetic fabrics. But so that's it. The Katabatic quilt, Sawatch quilt. I'll put a description down in the. I'll put a link to their website for this product on the description of the video. And one last thing about the this quilt, from the research I've done the last couple of years, this quilt costs $469. I can't remember if that was with or without overstuff, but about $469. So based on their price, it's easy to say I could have got any quilt out there if I'm paying over $500 by the time I add taxes and everything. I could have easily chosen any quilt out there in the 15-degree range, and I chose this one over all the other quilts because of the features, because of the differential cut, because of the materials and the water resistance of that material, because of the extra dry down, because of all the research that you put into getting the baffles right, and so your insulation is not moving all over the place, because of all the research and all the real world testing that they've done on this. And my only experience with other quilts, down quilts, is videos and talking to other people, so keep that in mind. But based on all the research and all the work that they put into that, compared to the just shortcomings of the other quilts I've seen on videos and stuff, and spending this much money, I could have chosen any quilt, but that's why I chose this one. So the last thing is why? Why did I go with down after all the years of saying that? So to really give you some context, I started camping in the 70s. I was about 9 years old and really started camping a lot after that. And actually I did my first solo camp when I was 9. But I'm in my mid-50s now, so I've camped for a really long time, and used a lot of different gear and seen the gear evolve over that time. And I've always stuck with synthetic, even as down got better and better and better. But so why did I make the switch now after all these years? One is weight and volume. I can backpack with a 50-pound pack. I'd rather not do that if I don't have to anymore. There was a time when I didn't care. If I wanted the gear, I took it, and if it was heavy, I just dealt with it. My body is forcing me to change my opinion on that and wanting to get lighter. In doing that, one of the things I've done is gone to a lighter backpack and smaller volume backpack. They dropped my weight from a backpack empty that weighed 6 pounds to an empty backpack that weighs now 2 pounds. So I've lost 4 pounds in my backpack there. But the loss in volume also made it a little bit more tricky to get stuff in there. I was still able to pack it right, but with a down quilt being half the volume of my and weight of my synthetic sleeping bag, I've decided now is the time to give it a try and see what I can do. And then also I took a realistic look at the type of camping I am currently doing. I've spent many years in the past camping where I just go out on the ground and camp, just lay my sleeping bag out on the ground, not even using a ground cloth or anything like that. So my sleeping bag was always getting damp, always getting wet. Down here in the Shawnee National Forest, we got a lot of bluffs and cliffs and all that kind of stuff. Instead of taking tents, I would just go under a rock ledge or something. It was always damp, always wet. Getting my sleeping bags wet was a pretty regular occurrence. I've talked about it in the past. We were up in the up in the Adirondacks, and crossing a creek on a log, passing our packs. We made, a chain of people. We were passing our packs across the river. My whole backpack got dropped in the river, and so I've known through my experiences that my bag can get wet, and so I was always, they say you pack your fears. I guess I view in the colder weather, especially, but this as a life-saving piece of gear, and then so to get out there with a life-saving piece of gear in cold weather, and then knowing the fact that if it gets wet, it is useless with the down. The synthetics will still provide you some warmth, which could make the difference between hypothermia or not, making it through the night or not. So I've always had those fears. I call them real world concerns, but most people would call them fears about using down gear. So I don't camp in the same situations, same place, same styles as I used to. If I do decide to do that again at some point, I've still got my synthetic bags and everything. My backpack is really water resistant. I use 2 Nylafume pack liners. One, I align the empty backpack with it, and then I take my sleeping bag and put it inside a second Nylafume bag and compress that up and push it down in there, and then I pack the rest of the gear on top of it. So I've got water resistant backpack, 1 pack liner on the for the main compartment, and then a second Nylafume bag inside of that. So I've got a lot of protection. And hammock camping, I'm usually warm up off the ground, warm and dry. Tents that I use, I don't really have to worry too much about my bag getting wet in those. It is possible to get damp, condensation, all that kind of stuff. I never worried about that with synthetic bags, but this, it will have to be a concern, keeping the condensation off of it. But between the water resistance of the liner, the outer shell, and the extra dry coating on the down, I think I will be okay. And I think I'm willing to take a chance on it. If I ever go on a trip that I'm going to be too far out where things go bad or whatever, it could be a problem, I can always take a synthetic bag if I haven't got enough confidence in this yet. But so that's why I'm finally making a switch to get something a little bit lighter, a little bit less volume. And this is the bag I chose, or the quilt that I chose. Like I said, I could have got any quilt I wanted, and I went with Katabatic gear because from what the research I've done, I have a lot more confidence in them than some of these other manufacturers out there. So that's it. Katabatic Gear Sawatch 15-degree rated quilts. I do keep in mind I've only used this 2 nights, so keep that in mind when I say that I do recommend it, based on, like I said, all the research I've done. I as a person that has made a lot of gear, I have a pretty good idea on what to look for as far as the quality of the manufacturing and everything, and it's top notch. It's I would definitely recommend it. So if you're in the market, they also make jackets, they make a lot of other down gear. So check out Katabatic gear if you're interested in getting some new down gear. And they have different ratings, different temperature rated quilts than this, but I would definitely recommend this one.